everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ryan, and in today's video we're going to be unpacking what I believe are the best whiskeys that you could choose in that $60 price range. Now that shelf at the liquor store, the $60 shelf, has a lot of options lined up on it. So I just want to give you a little bit of direction. So next time you go in there, depending on what you're in the mood for, maybe you'll have a better idea of what's worth your money. So I picked 4 bourbons on that shelf, that $60 price range. They have different characteristics that are currently my favorites in their kind of subcategories. So I can't wait to unpack them with you guys in this video. Before I do that though, I have to say thank you so much to my patrons. We've got some Patreon supporters rolling in, and I really appreciate those. It helps justify the time I'm spending on this little side hobby of mine, because obviously this isn't my main channel. This is just a fun hobby of mine. I thought it would be fun to share it with you guys. So thank you to my patrons who make it worthwhile to do this kind of stuff. So if you ever want to check out the Patreon, feel free to do that. You can become a supporter for $5 a month, and you'll get your name at the end of every video. There's other tiers as well, including some one-on-one interactions, some discussion posts, and even the potential to sponsor a bottle to have featured on the channel. So if you've got a favorite whiskey that you want me to try, hey, that's an option too. Also, shout out to Flaviar, who sent me the custom Glencairns. If you ever find yourself on Flaviar.com and you want to make a purchase, feel free to use my discount code. It's Dramguard, and that'll get you a discount, and I'll get a kickback. We both win. And I'm actually going to be unpacking their advent calendar of whiskey this season. So during the month of December, I'm going to start going through their 24 whiskeys. They sent me a whole box of 24 whiskeys, so we'll unpack those as well. But let's get right into the video. Alright, first up, Old Forester 1920 Prohibition style bourbon whiskey. So this is a very interesting story, and that's one of the things about bourbons that makes me want to buy them is if they have a rich story behind them. You know, I want to know about how it's made, who makes it, why they make it that way, all that stuff. That's part of the culture. So with Old Forester 1920, rewind to Prohibition, that 13 years, the dark ages of American whiskey, and basically, the government gave licenses to 10 distilleries. Only 6 of them ended up actually operating with those licenses. But there were only 6 distilleries that were allowed to make whiskey in America during Prohibition, and Old Forester was one of them. So they were making whiskey for medicinal purposes, and so they weren't diluting it or watering it down. It would just come out the barrel, and they'd put it in vials and those medicine bottles and stuff like that, and they'd be sent off to pharmacies. So you would go to your doctor. Ironically enough, I think headaches went like skyrocketed. Rates of people going to the doctor for severe headaches just skyrocketed after that, as people flooded to their doctors, claimed to have symptoms that you would be prescribed whiskey for, just so they could get a prescription to go get some bourbon whiskey. And this was Old Forester's way of doing things, their recipe and everything back then. So this is an homage to the way they made bourbon whiskey during Prohibition. So it is a high proof point. So this comes in at 115% or 115 proof, 57.5% ABV, and it is absolutely delicious. So highly recommend. But we're going to take a pour here, and we'll talk about what we smell, what we taste, so you'll know exactly what kind of experience this is going to deliver for you. I don't want to pour too much because a lot of these are high proof today. You can see the color, since it's not been watered down, it's got a lot of the color from the barrel has been imparted on it, and so it has this rich caramely color to it. Love it. On the nose, I definitely get like almost like a butter pecan, kind of a roasty quality to it. It's not like a harsh smoky roast, it's more like a subtle, like sweet savory roast. And obviously you get the vanilla and caramel in there that you get with typical bourbons. But it's got a lot going on. Almost like that sugar cookie dough. Like when you're kneading sugar cookie dough, I get that kind of a smell off of it. That's a wonderful nose. Oh. A lot of bourbons give you a real roasty, woody caramel taste. This is more like if you had a lot of butter in your caramel. Real buttery, thick caramel. Like really viscous caramel. That's what I get off of this. It's delicious. It's like candy. And the burn is just not that bad at all. You would think with it being 115 proof that you'd get a lot of bite up front. But it's more on the finish really that you just get that subtle burn, and it's not a harsh burn either. Buttery caramel, a slow sweet burn on the end, and that's Old Forester 1920. Oh, it's delicious stuff. And now for something completely different. Four Roses Small Batch Select. So while the Old Forester was buttery, sweet, roasty, with a nice subtle burn on the finish, this is going to be much different because Four Roses' way of doing things is quite interesting. I mentioned it in the previous video where we did the $30 price point, and that was a blind taste of what I thought were the best offerings at that price point, and we came to a ranking. And the Four Roses was a part of that lineup. This is a little different than that one because this is a blend of 6 bourbons instead of 10. And these were hand selected by their master distiller. Now Four Roses does 10 different bourbons. It's 2 mash bills, so 2 recipes, but then it's 5 different yeast strains. So you end up with 10 different products ultimately, and they blend them to get the flavor profile in their whiskey that they're really looking for at that price point. Now this comes in, it's a little bit lower because it's not a barrel proof. Obviously it's a blend of different whiskeys, so their barrel proof is going to be different based on the batch. But this is 104 proof, 52% ABV. Also has this nice rich dark color to it. And don't get this one confused with the small batch. The small batch is a different label. So this is the small batch. This is Small Batch Select. Darker label, brown label. And the standard small batch is cheaper, but it is not worth the money in my opinion. I think if you're going to get a Four Roses, you either just get the entry level $30 one, or you go straight for the Small Batch Select, or even the single barrel. Because that one has a little bit of interesting character to it too. But the standard small batch, I find to be really, it just doesn't know what it wants to be. It doesn't have a unique flavor profile, it just kind of is. And I don't really find it remarkable. But the Small Batch Select, ooh, that's much different. Even the nose, right up front, is so much different than Old Forester 1920. It has a certain crisp freshness to it, which is probably due to the fact that you've got mixed mash bills in here with a higher rye percentage. But it's almost like a sweet floral nose, almost medicinal. So it definitely has that rye spice to it. This will sort of get that mouthfeel that you get when you have a mint, like a Lifesaver mint of some kind, and then you take a drink of water, and you get that sensation in your mouth. Very similar sensation on this, but it's much lighter than the Old Forester for sure. And you get those tannins up front. It's almost like you get the tannin with the sweet. So it's like a dry sweet, and then it just finishes with that subtle rye spice. Sweet and dry, crisp and refreshing. Quite a stark contrast to the roasty, caramely sweetness that we get on the Old Forester 1920. So again, depending on your mood, you might prefer this or the other. That's dangerous because I could drink that all day. That's very crushable. And now moving on to something that is extremely different. I actually have another fresh bottle of this that's unopened because I'm getting kind of low on this one, and I was kind of sad because I found it just a fantastic way to end the day. But this is Woodford Reserve Double Oaked. I don't know what you're thinking. Well, some of you might be thinking. 2 of the 4 so far have been Brown-Forman products. Brown-Forman has several distilleries under their umbrella: Old Forester, Woodford Reserve, and then even a Scotch called Glendronach, which I'm also a big fan of. That's a great Scotch. Just a lovely, sweet Highland Scotch. So 2 of the 4 so far have been Brown-Forman. But this is just so dramatically different than Old Forester. And you're probably wondering, what does double oaked even mean? If you're not familiar with whiskey terms, so what that means is that this was originally aged, just according to the law, the rules for bourbon, the way it has to be aged in fresh cooperage, virgin oak barrels. But then it was finished in a lightly toasted barrel. Instead of a harsh char, they very slowly, lightly toast the inside of the barrel and then give it a quick char at the end. And so you get a lot more subtlety out of the wood, less harsh roasty flavors. So a lot of those flavors in the wood get preserved, and then some of the sugars that traditionally get pretty caramelized don't end up being caramelized, they're more just lightly toasted. And so the flavor profile is quite different. It's much more woody. So if you're looking for something that's going to give you a very oak-forward palate, this is it. But instead of having that like vanilla caramel, you more get like the brown sugar taste off this. So that's what I've come to expect out of this, is brown sugar and oak-forward. So it's quite different than everything else that we've tasted so far. And the nose literally just smells like brown sugar. It smells like I just shoved my nose into a bag of brown sugar. It's so funny how smells make you think of certain things based on what you were doing when you smelled it last, or a memorable experience that you had with it. For example, when I smelled this, my mind immediately went to the game Skyrim, because I recently went through a very long playthrough. I revived that game for me, and I did it was like my evening gaming, leisurely gaming with Skyrim. And that's what I did, killing this bottle, was I was pouring Woodford Reserve Double Oaked while I was doing my gaming sessions. So I'm literally smelling this and my mind goes straight to Skyrim. It's funny how that works. Brown sugar and oak on the nose. More sweet brown sugar than oak though. But I know the palate is going to be a mix of the two. Oh yeah. First of all, you don't have nearly as much bite on this as you do the first two. We went from 115 proof to 104. This one is 90.4. So that's a pretty steep drop compared to the other two. So this isn't going to have this like punch in the face. There's no burn here. This is really just designed to give you a very wood forward, sweet brown sugar experience. It's very crushable. It's like a two-note experience. It's sweet brown sugar up front, and it ends just totally toasted oak. And then when you exhale through your nose with your mouth closed, and those aromatics are kind of bouncing around on your tongue, you get a wonderful blend of the two. That's literally like candy to me. I could drink that all day. So these are three very different experiences so far. You've got Old Forester 1920 bringing this rich, buttery caramel with that high proof point. And then you've got the Four Roses Small Batch Select bringing you this more crisp, refreshing vibe with a little bit of that rye spice. Sweet, spicy, dry. And then you've got the Double Oak from Woodford Reserve, which is totally like candy. It's brown sugar and a roasted, toasted oak at the end. So it really just depends on your mood and what you're looking for in your bourbon experience when you go into the store with looking to spend $60 on something. And last but certainly not least is one of my staple whiskeys that I have to have a bottle of on my shelf at all times. Wild Turkey Rare Breed. Now this one isn't like if you're looking for some dramatically unique experience from your bourbon. This is, hey, I love bourbon. I love quintessential bourbon flavors. And I want to know what a distillery can do if they put all their resources into making a really freaking good barrel-proof bourbon. That's this. So nothing here should surprise you, but I know what to expect out of this because obviously I drink plenty of it. But it's 116.8 proof. So of everything we've had so far, this is going to be the highest proof point, which means I need to be a little careful. This is a Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. And if you remember, in the blind tasting of the $30 price point bourbons, Wild Turkey 101 took the win from me, which isn't surprising, honestly. I love the branding for Wild Turkey too. They're bottling, they're branding, everything. Anyone who watches me game knows I'm a sucker for red and gold, so the fact that this label is red border with gold lettering, it's already speaking to me. Oh man. The nose on this is just so different than all the things we've already done today. It's toffee roasted peanuts, so it's not the brown sugar that you got with Woodford Reserve. This is like, it's been cooked. That brown sugar's been through some heat. And now it's that roasty caramel toffee. Peanuts. And iodine. And I know that's a weird thing to say if you're not into whiskey. But there's a certain medicinal quality you get on the nose of a lot of these. And there's definitely a little burn on the nose too. That 116.8 proof coming through strong. It's so different. This is toffee roasted peanuts, you know? It's a peanut that's been roasted and coated in that toffee layer, so you get the nutty, but you get the sweet and the roasty character from all of those things working together. And it just ends with that high-proof, tannic, slow burn at the end. It's not harsh either, which is surprising with it being 116.8. You would guess that this is a high proof point, but it doesn't burn like something that's just a high proof point just for the sake of being high in alcohol percentage. But it has a much heavier mouthfeel, much more viscous, thick, but in a good way, like ooshy thick. That's just fantastic. There's a reason why this is always on my shelf. I got another full bottle in the closet, uncorked and ready to go. And so there you have it. These are currently my top 4 $60 bourbons. And I know there's a lot of competition at that price point. And my taste will likely change if I do this same theme a year from now. You know, half of these might stay and half of them might rotate out as I find more craft distillers that are doing some interesting things with bourbon. Or somebody comes out with a new small batch that's just fantastic. We don't know. But for the time being, these are the ones that I highly recommend that you try out. But let me know in the comment section, what is your favorite $60 bourbon out there right now? What do you have to have on your shelf? When you get to the end of that bottle, you're like, I gotta go restock it. Because a lot of bottles you get to the bottom of and you're not in a rush to restock. But these two for sure are for me. I'm in a rush to restock these whenever I kill one of them. Thanks again to my patrons who helped justify this little side excursion of mine. And thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a like on it. But don't smash that like button. It's been through so much. Be gentle on it. A nice little tab. And be sure to let me know what you're drinking. If you want to get involved in the whiskey discussion on Patreon, feel free to hit the link in the description and the pinned comment, and I'll see you over there. Be warm and well fed, my friends. May you live richly and get better with age. Cheers.